Welcome to Banik YouTube classes for OCS examination. We have already completed Union Executive regarding President of India. In this class, we shall be starting Vice President, Prime Minister, Council of Ministers, Attorney General, the rest part of the executive. In the last class, we have discussed about President's power, very important chapter it was, and I hope you have all gone through the chapter well and considered it. Okay. So this class is meant for Vice President, Prime Minister and others. The office of the Vice President falls next to the President of India. It holds second position. It is the second highest institution, public institution in India, or second highest constitutional office after President. In the table of precedence, the Vice President occupies second position. The office of the Vice President is modeled upon the Vice President of the USA. Vice President is not provided with any substantial powers. His office is provided to maintain continuity in administration. You will see that the Vice President does not have any substantial powers. So therefore, some different kind of election procedure is provided, not like the President. It is different from that of the President. Because Vice President is not as powerful as the President. He is there to maintain the continuity in administration in case the President's office falls vacant, or in case the President goes on, President's office falls or suffers from temporary vacancy. At that point of time, the Vice President will occupy the office of the President. And with regards to other powers, Vice President is assigned with only the authority to preside over the joint session, preside over the Rajya Sabha. He is the ex officio chairperson of Rajya Sabha. So though there is no visible need for an office of Vice President, but it is essential because in the interest of the office of the President, there must be a Vice President who will serve as the President in case the sitting President resigns or sitting President's office falls vacant. So these are the important thing you have to remember, that the office of the Vice President, though not essential in the running of the government, yet it is essential because there is need to maintain continuity in the administration. So Vice President is therefore the important office. We cannot say that it is not important. It is the second constitutional highest office in India, and the office is modeled upon the Vice President of the USA. So we have borrowed this provision from the USA. The election of the Vice President. There is under Article 63, there is a provision that, which article contains the provision of Vice President? Article 63. Article 63 says there shall be a Vice President of India. And Article 66 contains the election of the Vice President. The Vice President is elected on the basis of proportional representation by means of single transferable vote system. He is elected in the same process or in the same method as in case of President, and he is elected by an electoral college, so to say. He is elected by an electoral college. He is elected by an electoral college. So he is elected by an electoral college. Just I am writing. He is elected by an electoral college by an electoral college, but the electoral college of president is different from that of the vice president. The electoral college of the vice president consists of only all MPs. All MPs means that both elected and nominated MPs. Both elected MPs and nominated MPs. But if you remember about the composition of the electoral college of vice president, you will see that there is a great difference. The number one difference is that in the electoral college of the president, the elected members of parliament participate, the nominated members do not participate. This is the difference first. Second is in the election of the president, the members, elected member of state legislative assembly participate in the election of the president, but they do not participate in the election of the vice president. Is that clear? So only parliament is involved. Let me tell you that prior to 11th Amendment Act 1961, the vice president had to be elected by a joint sitting of parliament, which was somewhat difficult or very cumbersome, difficult procedure. So the joint sitting provision for the election of the vice president was abolished by 11th Amendment Act 1961, and later it was provided electoral college or proportional representation system. So the electoral college there is also electoral college for the vice president, but that is different from that of the president, and I told you what are the differences. Then basis gurabi, se jo basis election ro basis ta, say proportional representation by means of single transferable vote. Proportional representation by means of single transferable vote. In secret ballot. So the same basis is provided, and in the same procedure the election is conducted. Same procedure. The value of votes is calculated as per a formula. Each member of parliament has a considerable number of votes. So that is an indirect election, and the election is conducted on the basis of the same basis as the president is elected. And like the president, there is also some electors as proposers and some electors as seconders. The elector means the MPs who will elect. And in case of president, there is 50 electors as proposers and 50 electors as seconders. But in case of vice president, there is 20 electors as proposers and there is 20 electors as seconders. And the same amount is also paid as security deposit, that is 15,000, which is refundable if the candidate secures more than 1/6 of the valid votes of polled. So this is all about your election. Remember, the election procedure is almost same as the President of India. Only the composition is different. But and also there is a less number of electors and proposers are required. That is 2020. And remember, the election of the vice president is provided under Article 66 of the Constitution. Is that clear? Okay. So this is how the election of the vice president is conducted. You have to remember 2-3 lines. First of all, it is provided under Article 66. And he is elected on the basis of proportional representation by means of single transferable vote with secret ballot. He is elected by an electoral college consisting of all members of parliament. Members of state legislative assembly do not participate in the election of the vice president. The election is conducted by the Election Commission of India. The same procedure is followed as in case of the election of the president, and the candidate who secures most number of votes or achieves the quota majority of votes, he is declared as elected. Then your qualification of the vice president. Vice president has the same qualification, nearly same as the president. He must be a citizen of India. He must be a citizen of India and must have attained your must have attained 35 years of age, years of age, 35 years of age, and must have qualifications to become a member of Rajya Sabha. Member of Rajya Sabha. So remember, vice president is not a member, but he should have the qualification, must have the qualification to become a member of Rajya Sabha. These are the qualification of the vice president, and vice president requires to have the qualification to become a member of Rajya Sabha. These are the things, and he must not hold any office of profit. There is a condition of his office, he must not hold any office of profit. So these are the qualifications. Kindly take a note of this. Okay, now the tenure, vice president tenure. Tapurbaru, oath of the vice president by the president. Oath is given by the president. Oath is given by the President of India, or in his absence the Chief Justice of India, whatever it may be. That is the thing. Salary, vice president's salary is 4 lakh rupees, 4 lakh per month. As of now, it has been increased since 2018. Finance Act 2018 re salary has been increased to 4 lakh, and it is charged expenditure, charged upon the Consolidated Fund of India, it is charged upon means they are votable in nature. The salary cannot be reduced, cannot be compromised, cannot be reduced to the disadvantage of the office holder. So it is charged upon the Consolidated Fund of India. Here let me tell you that vice president is not entitled to any post-retirement benefit like pension and other things. He is not entitled. So these are the salary and oath of the president, vice president. Okay. Now the tenure. 5-year tenure is 5 years. 5 years from the date he or she enters upon the office. He or she enters upon the office. It is 5 years from the date of, that is from 5 years from the date of joining. But Vice President tenure can be extended beyond his term until new Vice President occupies the office. So he can stay there, and in case the term is over, the election must be held within 6 months. So if the election is not held, the sitting Vice President will continue to be the Vice President. That is called the tenure. And remember, Vice President can be re-elected also. He can be re-elected for several times. It is not a, there is no restriction. So these are the tenure, salary and other things we have learned. And emoluments we have discussed. We have already discussed how much he gets per month, but I told you there is no post-retirement benefits. Oaths or affirmation we have already discussed. Term and removal. Term we have discussed, that is tenure, and removal. VP is removed by a resolution, by a resolution moved in and passed by Rajya Sabha in effective majority. It is a type of special majority, effective majority. Mean total strength, total number of presence members, total number of members present, means total number of members there in the Rajya Sabha divided by 2 plus 1, effective majority, and approved by Lok Sabha, in simple majority. This is how the Vice President is removed. Okay. So that is the removal of the Vice President. Remember, he is removed by the initiative of Rajya Sabha alone. Lok Sabha cannot initiate the process. That is the removal, term and office of the removal of the President. Then vacancy. How does vacancy arise in the office of the Vice President? What happens when vacancy arises? So first of all, let us discuss on what grounds the office of the Vice President falls vacant. It falls vacant when the term is complete. That means on the expiry of his tenure of 5 years. By resignation, Vice President tenders resignation to the President. Vice President tenders resignation to the President. President of India. On his removal, on his death. If he dies, Krishna Kant was the only Vice President to die in office. He was the first Vice President and only Vice President to die in office. Okay? And these are the 4 grounds on which the office of the Vice President can fall vacant. Then what happens when the Vice President office falls vacant? There is no provision for acting Vice President in India. Only the Constitution provides that election must be held within 1 month from the date of office, otherwise the maximum limit for conducting election is 6 months. So within 6 months there must be an election, but remember there is no provision for acting Vice President of India. So kindly remember the grounds of vacancy and what happens when the vacancy arises. Then we shall come to the powers and privileges of the Vice President's office. I told you that Vice President does not have substantial powers. He does not have exclusive or substantial visible powers like the President. He is provided to maintain continuity in the administration, but he is provided a regular duty, regular power, that is, he serves as the acting or the ex officio chairperson of Rajya Sabha. He is the ex officio chairperson of Rajya Sabha. That is under Article 64. Under Article 64, there is a provision for the ex officio chairperson of Rajya Sabha. Under Article 64. And when Vice President serves as the chairman of Rajya Sabha, he enjoys all the rights and privileges of the Speaker of Lok Sabha. He has casting vote, he makes rules and regulations for the House, he presides over the House, he maintains discipline and decorum in the House, he authorizes or he allows the members to participate in the debate, he conducts the business of the House. He is the sole interpreter of the Constitution and the rules and procedures of the Parliament and conventions, anything. So he is like the Speaker. Only 2 things that are enjoyed by President, 2 powers that are enjoyed by the President, by Speaker of Lok Sabha, 2 powers that are enjoyed by the Speaker of Lok Sabha are not enjoyed by the Vice President. 2 powers. So what are the 2 powers? One power is to certify a bill as money bill. The Speaker of Lok Sabha has the sole authority to certify a bill as money bill. That means he has to identify, he has to certify a bill as money bill, and money bill has a different kind of procedure. That is one power which is not enjoyed by the Vice President. Vice President does not have the power to certify a bill a money bill, because Rajya Sabha has least negligible power in the passage of money bill. That is a point to be remembered. And another thing that he doesn't have is that to preside over the joint sitting. The Speaker is the first to preside over the joint sitting of Parliament. Vice President is not entitled to preside over the joint sitting. So except these 2 provisions, like certifying a bill as money bill and presiding over joint sitting, Vice President of India or the Chairman of Rajya Sabha enjoys all the powers and privileges of the Speaker of Lok Sabha. So he is also the chairperson of Rajya Sabha. Okay, that is Article 64. It is the regular powers or the extensive powers of the Vice President of India. Then another power that is provided under Article 65 of Indian Constitution, that he acts as the acting President of India. whenever there is a vacancy, it is probably 87 articles. Whenever there is a vacancy in the office of the president, the vice president takes over as the charge of president. But vice president can take over the charge only for a period of 6 months. He cannot become an acting president for more than 6 months. That means there must be an election within the 6 months to fill in the vacancy in the office of the president. So he can act as the president of India and called acting president of India for a maximum period of 6 months. And in sometimes when there is the president is absent or president is not there, in absent, he is on leave or he has gone on foreign trip, then the vice president will also serve as the acting president. Even for a day, if the president is not there, the vice president may take over the charge. And another thing, when vice president serves as the acting president of India, he gets the salary of the president, he enjoys all the powers and privileges of the president of India. So this is the second most important power of the vice president. One is one is ex officio chairperson of Rajya Sabha, another is acting president of India. The provision of acting president of India has been borrowed from America, but there is a difference. The American vice president has some similarity with the Indian vice president. The American vice president is the ex officio chairperson of Senate, and Indian vice president is the ex officio chairperson of Rajya Sabha, the upper house, but Senate has more power. In that case, it's different thing. And the vice president continues to serve as the acting president of America whenever there is a vacancy in the office of the president of America. But the acting president of America, the vice president when serves as the president of America, will continue till the remaining period of the term. Till the remaining period of the term. If the president dies after 1 year of assumption of office in America, then the vice president will serve as the president for the rest 3 years. Means American president has 4-year term. So if after 1 year the sitting president dies or resigns, then there will be no election. The vice president will continue as the president of America for the rest of the term. But in India, the difference is that he remains as the president of India for 6 months. That is the biggest difference between the two provisions in the two countries. That is the difference. Okay? So these are the things we have noted, and for this reason, as vice president is not endowed with any substantial powers and privileges, he is considered as his superfluous highness because he is not considered with visible powers. So often the political analysts or the scholars say that office of the vice president is superfluous, but it is not a redundant office. He is required to meet the contingency situation, and also he is assigned with a regular duty of presiding over Rajya Sabha. So it is not that the vice president office is a redundant one or in an unnecessary one, we cannot say that. Then look at the articles we have already discussed. 63 there shall be a vice president, 64 vice president is the ex officio chairperson of Rajya Sabha, 65 acting president, 66 election of the president. Okay, these are the notable articles you have to remember. Now have a look at the list of vice president. So in case of Vice President, if you consider how many of them became President of India, there is a very, very, you can say very good interesting sequence achi. First three Vice President like Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan and your Zakir Hussain, Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan and Zakir Hussain and Baragiri Venkatagiri, they have become president. But G.S. Pathak, B.D. Jati, Muhammad Hidayatullah not president, not became president. Then R. Venkatraman, Shankardayal Sharma, K.R. Narayan became president. And your Krishnakant, Bhairav Singh Shekhawat, Muhammad Hamid Ansari, they have not become president. So look at the list, you will find that first three vice presidents have become president, second three have not become president, third three have become president, fourth three have not become presidents. So that is also a rule too. Then how many presidents have not been vice president at all? If you consider only 6 vice presidents have become president, then rest 8 presidents have not become vice presidents. President like Rajendra Prasad, Fakiruddin Ali Ahmad, Nilam Sanjeev Reddy, Gyani Jayal Singh, Pranab Mukherjee, Pratibha Devi Singh Patil, APJ Abdul Kalam, Ramnath Kovind, they were not vice presidents. They were not vice president, they directly became the president of India. So 8 presidents have did not become vice presidents, and 6 presidents were vice presidents before they became president. So this is the things you have to remember while dealing with prelim based questions. You can face this type of question, chronological order of the vice president, or the relationship, the thing that we have discussed, how many of them became president, how many did not become president of India, and how many presidents were not vice presidents of India before they occupied the office. Okay, and I told you how many presidents have won your Bharat Ratna, 6 presidents, if you remember, 6 presidents. Rajendra Prasad, Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan, Zakir Hussain, V.B. Giri, APJ Abdul Kalam APJ Abdul Kalam, and your Pranab Mukherjee. So these are the things you have to remember. This is all about your Vice President of India. Now we shall move to Prime Minister of India. Okay. So we shall go to the Prime Minister of India. In the politico-administrative system of India, the Prime Minister is the de facto sovereign ruler of the country. He is the de facto head. He is the real head. Ambedkar compares the office of the Prime Minister of India with that of the President of America, because the Prime Minister is the real repository of powers. He exercises the powers to govern the country, not the President. He is the real ruler, or the de facto ruler. He is the de facto head, de facto sovereign ruler, de facto sovereign ruler of the country. He is the sun around whom the planets revolve. He is the crisis manager, he is the head of the government, he is the master of the government. Government is the master of the country, but Prime Minister is the master of the government, said H.R. Greaves. He is the moon among the lesser stars. So there are many quotations are added to the Prime Minister because of his position in the political administrative system in India. He is the highest authority, so to say. The real power for governance of the country is vested in the office of the Prime Minister. Though the power of the Prime Minister are diminished or compromised in a coalition government to some extent, but the glare of the office depends upon the person who holds it. It depends who the Prime Minister is. So there is ample scope to become a democratic despot in Indian political system. We have had the experience of few Prime Ministers who acted quite despotically. So the constitutional arrangement in India provides ample scope to the Prime Minister to act on his own. Hence, he is called the most powerful constitutional office in India. Then for Prime Minister, there is no such large provision provided in the Constitution because he enjoys all that mentioned in the name of the President. So Prime Minister of India is the, you can say, is the sun around whom the planets revolve, is the head of the government in India. He is the supreme ruler of India. Then how is Prime Minister selected? He is elected or appointed? The Prime Minister of India is appointed. Appointment of the Prime Minister. Appointed is by the President. Appointed by the President of India. But remember, the appointment of the President, appointment of the Prime Minister is not a discretionary power of the President. The President invites the leader of the ruling party or the majority party in Lok Sabha to be sworn in as the Prime Minister. If nobody is there, if no party is there who has a comfortable majority in Lok Sabha, then the President may invite the leader of any other party to be sworn in as the President, Prime Minister. So we can say that the power to appoint the Prime Minister is both a discretionary and non-discretionary power of the President. Anyway, but the Prime Minister is elected, not appointed, not elected. So then qualifications. Qualification is not mentioned in the Constitution. No specific qualification is provided for the Prime Minister. He must be a member, of either house of parliament, member in either house, of parliament. He can be a member of Lok Sabha, he can be a member of Rajya Sabha, he can be a member of Lok Sabha, he can be a member of Rajya Sabha, House of Parliament. But the question arises, if the person requires to be a member before he is appointed as the Prime Minister, the answer is big no. A person can be appointed as Prime Minister of India without becoming the member of Parliament at the time of appointment. But the Constitution provides that the person so appointed must secure a seat in Parliament within 6 months from the date of being appointed as the Prime Minister. If within 6 months the person does not have a seat in Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha, he will cease to be the Prime Minister. He will stop from being the Prime Minister. That is the reason why it is said that not any specific qualification is provided. So, Prime Minister doesn't have any specific qualification, rather the qualifications belong to the members of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. So, that is a point also to be remembered. Then who administers oath or affirmation to the President by President? President administers oath to the Prime Minister, or if the President is not there, then if the President is not there, then Chief Justice of India may administer. If the Chief Justice of India is not there, senior most judge of the Supreme Court will administer the office. In case of salary and allowances, it is not fixed one. He gets some sumptuary allowances. So above 2 lakh rupees is drawing. But the Constitution has not fixed the salary of the Prime Minister as it has done in case of President. So salary is not fixed. And if you consider of his term, the term of Prime Minister, it is also not fixed. So the term of the Prime Minister, term is not fixed. Why it is said that term is not fixed? Because the Prime Minister remains in power until his party has a majority in Lok Sabha within in between the 5 years. Once elected, once appointed does not mean the Prime Minister will continue for 5 years. He will have to secure, or he will have to ensure that his party has a majority in the Lok Sabha. Otherwise, he will have to resign, or the President will dissolve Lok Sabha. So therefore, the term is not fixed. And another thing, a person can be appointed as the Prime Minister of India for any term. There is no bar. There is no restriction, no bar for a person to become Prime Minister for as many time as he can. So this is the major things: appointment, qualification, oath, term. Okay, take a note of this. Now, the removal of the Vice President, removal of the Prime Minister, removal. Prime Minister is removed by the President. But President cannot remove Prime Minister whenever he wants. He can remove only when Lok Sabha passes a resolution So he cannot remove Prime Minister until he has majority in the Lok Sabha. So the removal of the Prime Minister is not a discretion of the President. He cannot remove a Prime Minister if he has majority, if the latter has majority in the Lok Sabha. So therefore Prime Minister is protected. Got it? That is the Prime Minister of India, removal, appointment, logic. And basically there are three major articles related to Prime Minister and Council Ministers. Before going to discuss the powers of the Prime Minister, let us have a brief look at the three articles that are related to Council of Ministers and Prime Minister. Article 74 of Indian Constitution says that aid and advice to the President. The President to the aid and advice. The Council of Ministers headed by the Prime Minister shall tender aid and advice to the President in the execution in the governance of the country. The President shall administer the country with the aid and advice of the Council of Ministers headed by the Prime Minister boli eta lekha hoichi 74 re. But such aid and advice has been made binding upon the President by 42nd Amendment Act 1976 re. Ye jo aid and advice ku binding karaichi. The Constitution has not mentioned that whether such aid and advice is binding upon the President or not. Had it not been binding, then President would have got an opportunity or a space to become a despot or an autocrat. But that thing has been the guesswork ame karuche je hei paribo President can become, se guesswork has been stopped. Has been the prospect of President becoming despot has been eliminated by 42nd Amendment Act 1976, which provides that the aid and advice tendered to the President by the Council of Ministers headed by the Prime Minister is binding in nature, is compulsory in nature. The President has to go by that. Hence, the President is reduced to a non-entity, or you sometimes call him rubber stamp. That is 74. 75 there contains many things like the President shall appointment of Prime Minister, appointment of PM, appointment of ministers, collective responsibility of ministers, collective responsibility, we shall understand it, collective responsibility of the ministers headed by the Prime Minister to the Lok Sabha, and individual responsibility of the minister to President, individual responsibility. So these are mentioned in Article 75, kindly take a note of this. Okay, so I have seen the question, money bill and your another thing you have asked, Consolidated Fund of India. We will discuss it in Parliament. Money bill is a kind of bill which is related to withdrawal of money from Consolidated Fund of India, or anything that is related to money, transaction, withdrawal, receipt of money, cash from Consolidated Fund of India is called a money bill. There is a definition also. related to alteration of taxes, abolition of taxes, imposition of cess or withdrawal of money, that is called money bill provided in Article 110. And with regards to your question, Consolidated Fund of India, it is a major fund of Government of India. All the tax proceeds, all the income are credited to Consolidated Fund of India, are credited to the Consolidated Fund of India. Consolidated Fund of India is a fund under the control of Parliament. Whenever government requires money, it can send a money bill to Parliament, and if it is money bill is passed, then money can be drawn from the Consolidated Fund of India. So Consolidated Fund of India is under the custody of Parliament. It is a major fund of Government of India. Is that clear? So we have discussed the Article 75 contains appointment of the Prime Minister, appointment of the Council of Ministers by the President, collective responsibility of the Council of Ministers to Lok Sabha. We shall understand it in Parliament part. Individual responsibility of the ministers to the President. That is Article 75. Then Article 78 talks about duties of the Prime Minister. Duties of the Prime Minister to communicate the affairs of the government, the government work, decision of the government of India, to the President. So it shall be the duty of the Prime Minister to communicate all the matters to the President. That is, all the matters of the government to the President. And it is a duty. Under the same article, it is provided that if the President finds a decision taken by a minister and not considered by the Council of Ministers, then the President will return the decision, will ask the Prime Minister to reconsider the matter by the Cabinet. So any decision taken by a single minister, even by the Prime Minister, may not be supported by the President. He may ask the Prime Minister to reconsider the matter before the collective body, before the body. So a single minister cannot take a decision or implement it without the approval of the Council. Here Council means the Cabinet. So that is a procedure also, and 78 that is a responsibility of the Prime Minister to communicate all the matters of the government to the President. So 74, 75, 78 are the articles related to Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers. These are the three articles which are related to them or mentions them. Okay. Next, the powers of the Prime Minister. The powers of the Prime Minister. I told you that Prime Minister is the repository of vast powers. He is an ocean of power. Real power for the governance of the country are vested in the Prime Minister's office. Prime Minister is the steering person. He is the master of the government. He is the son. He is the keystone in the cabinet arts. He is the key to the government. He is the face of the government. So though Constitution provides for a president, but it is the Prime Minister who rules the roost. That is clear. Okay, so he has all the powers that are put in the name of the President are usually enjoyed by the Prime Minister. And the Prime Minister occupies a unique position of the power and privileges. His powers and functions are, he recommends the list of Council of Ministers. He recommends the list of persons to be appointed as ministers by the President, and the President cannot drop a name from the list. It means President does not have the authority to change the list. The decision of the Prime Minister in selecting the members of his government or the ministers of his government is final. Then the Prime Minister allocates or distributes portfolios among different ministers. He allocates our portfolios, departments, ministries. It is his power. He will tell which minister will hold which ministry, which member of the government will hold which ministry. He can dismiss an erring minister. He can ask a minister to resign or can ask or advise the President to remove him. But he cannot directly remove a minister. He presides over the meeting of the cabinet. He is the chairman of the Union Cabinet. He supervises and coordinates various work of various departments. He is the chief coordinator of the government. He is the main spokesperson of the government. Whatever he tells is final. Major decisions of the government are declared by the Prime Minister. He is a link between the Council of Ministers and the President. We can say he is the principal link. He is the principal link between the Council of Ministers and the President. His duty is to bridge a gap between them. He advises the President on the issue of making appointment to important offices. All the major appointments, constitutional appointments, or the appointment to higher public services are made by the President, but it is the advice of the Prime Minister which plays the role, which decides the appointment. So that is only a formal appointment is given in the name of the President, but it is the Prime Minister who chooses the occupant of public offices in India. So he is the major power. He advises the President to dissolve the Lok Sabha if so possible, even at towards the end of the term, or when he loses confidence, no confidence motion in the Parliament. He advises the President to dissolve Lok Sabha. He plays a leading role in making and policy statements as also the preparation of the annual budget. He is the man behind any new policy, national policies of Government of India. He designs or gives shape to policies. He is the principal designer of national policies. He plays a leading role in making all the policies. Then he is the ex officio chairperson of some important cabinet committees. There are several cabinet committees functioning in India. I told you that cabinet is the sole decision making body in the country. So we have a plural executive system, because decision of Indian government is not taken by a single member but by a coterie of members or a 15 to 20 cabinet ministers headed by the Prime Minister. And the cabinet has certain committees also. So some committees are headed by the Prime Minister. He is the ex officio chairperson of some committees. Look at the screen. I have mentioned the name of the committee, Appointment Committee, which gives idea about the appointment, proposal about the appointment to various important offices like Comptroller, Auditor General of India, Election Commission of India, Attorney General of India, and others. Political Affairs Committee rules regulation, but that is all about the elections, votes, and other things. Economic Affairs Committee, Committee on Employment and Skill Development, and Committee on Economic Development and Investment. So these are the new committees. These are the new committees established by the NDA government in the second run. So there are 5 cabinet committees, of which the Prime Minister is the ex officio chairperson. There are Cabinet Committee on Appointment, Cabinet Committee on Political Affairs, Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs, Cabinet Committee on Employment and Skill Development, Cabinet Committee on Economic Growth and Investment. These are the major committees, and apart from that, he is also the chairperson of various other commissions. He announces government policies on the floor of the House. It is the Prime Minister who makes the announcement. He is the chairperson of the Planning Commission, which is now Niti Aayog, which is now called Niti Aayog. And when it was Planning Commission, Prime Minister of India was also the chairperson. He is also the ex officio chairperson of National Development Council. He is the ex officio chairperson of Interstate Council, National Disaster Management Authority, National Security Council, and also National Advisory Council. Kindly take a note of this. So you can notice that the Prime Minister is the ex officio chairperson of various councils, usually the top or highest councils, major decision making bodies. He is the things, and he is the chairperson. He is the chief architect of the foreign policy of the country. He is the designer, chief architect of the foreign policy. And remember, Prime Minister is the leader of the House in which he is a member. Prime Minister is the leader of the House in which he is a member. So you have seen, he is also the crisis manager. He is called crisis manager of the country. Okay, so these are the important powers of the Prime Minister. So while writing about Prime Minister's power, you can first write that all the powers that are vested in the office of the President are really exercisable by the Prime Minister. Okay, so you can write it, and the major powers we have already discussed. Kindly take a note of the important powers and try to maintain it in your answers. And there are various quotations made by various personalities, various eminent persons on office of the Prime Minister of India. B.R. Ambedkar says, sorry, B.R. Ambedkar says, if any functionary under the Constitution is to be compared with the US President, he is the Prime Minister and not the President of the Union. So I told you that B.R. Ambedkar compared the office of the Prime Minister with the office of the President of America. In fact, the office of the President of America is the most powerful office in the world, the compare not the President. Then H.R. Grieve said the government is the master of the country and the Prime Minister is the master of the government. The government rules the country, but the Prime Minister rules the government, rules over the government. Hanuman, namaskar, namaskar. I have already on the last rung of the class today. Okay, we are continuing with Prime Minister. You joined late. Okay, you can overview the video also. Okay, so please give your comment whether we are going in line with civil service examination or not. We are conducting the class in complete English language because these classes are meant for civil service examination, both for OCS and UPSC examinations. It will be vital for them to conduct. So those who are opting for UPSC and OPSC examinations, for civil services especially, these classes will be very much useful. So we are conducting the classes in English, complete English language. These are specialized classes. Okay. Okay. So these are the things. So H.R. Grieve says Prime Minister is the master of the government, because the government, the life or the survival and the effectiveness of the government, survival, life, survival and effectiveness of the government depends upon the Prime Minister. If the Prime Minister is weak, If the Prime Minister is not competent, then the government will be criticized very much. The government will be criticized, government will be ineffective. If the Prime Minister dies, the government dissolves. If the Prime Minister resigns, government dissolves. But a minister resignation does not lead to the resignation of the government. So, that is called primus inter pares, first among equal. Primus inter pares. He is called primus inter pares. Primus inter pares gote term अछि तांका पई. Primus inter pares means primus inter pares. So, he is the first among equals. Then Ramsay Muir says Prime Minister is the captain of the ship of the state. Munro कहछन सेटा Thomas Munro is the captain of the ship of the state. It is his outlook, his farsightedness that will matter a lot for the development of the country. So, if he is not a genius, if he is not doesn't have farsightedness or broad outlook, then the country will be pushed into slavery or economic backwardness. Hence, he is called the captain of the ship. Ramsay Muir says Prime Minister is the steersman of a steering wheel of the ship of the state. He is the important steering man. And Harcourt, John Harcourt says that he is the interstellar luna minoris, a moon among the lesser stars. Means he is one prominent member among the ministers. He is the head minister, prime minister. It tells us about the influence of the Prime Minister, the personality of the Prime Minister, the domination of the Prime Minister, the place of the Prime Minister in the hierarchy of the government. So, he is a moon among the lesser stars. He is rather a sun around which planets revolve. He is the keystone of the constitution. All roads in the constitution leads to the Prime Minister. Ivor Jennings said that he is the all roads of the constitution leads to Prime Minister. Means everything that constitution wants can be possible if Prime Minister is sincere about it, unless it cannot be possible. Okay, so that is the thing about all roads lead to the constitution. So, these points can be a long question in your mains examination. You can write the powers of the Prime Minister only on all these quotations. You can write the powers. The pivot around which the entire government machinery revolves. Lasky कहते कि pivot, that is central point around which the entire governmental machinery revolves. So, this is your quotations on the Prime Minister. We have talked about Prime Minister and its quotations, the powers, the positions, and there is also another, that PMO. Prime Minister has a secretariat to assist him. It is called Prime Minister's Office, and Prime Minister's Office is one of the most powerful secretariats in India because it serves the Prime Minister. It was established in 1947 and it got the status of a government department in 1961. It enjoys certain upper hand or some supremacy over cabinet secretariat to some extent because it deals with the affairs of the Prime Minister. So, Prime Minister's Office is one of the powerful offices in India. Sometimes it is called super government or super cabinet sometimes because of the aggressiveness or the domination of the body. So, it is headed by the Prime Minister's principal secretary and there is a staff agency to assist the Prime Minister. It was established in 1947, kindly remember. And in recent times, sometimes during the Prime Minister's time, some Prime Minister's time, PMO has grown into a super cabinet. All the important decisions of the government were taken by the PMO. So sometimes it depends on the Prime Minister, okay. So it diminishes the powers and the glare of the cabinet secretariat to some extent. That's why there is a complaint ki super government, super cabinet, everything is said about that. Okay. And if you look at the Prime Minister of India, there are about 14 Prime Minister India has ever seen. And the longest Prime Minister is Jawaharlal Nehru, 47 to 64. And Gulzarilal Nanda, if you can see on the screen, was the first acting President of India, acting Prime Minister of India. He was the first acting Prime Minister. And second Prime Minister was Lal Bahadur Shastri, remained for 2 years and died, as you know. Then Gulzarilal Nanda became the acting Prime Minister. Indira Gandhi became the Prime Minister in 1966 to 77 for about 11 years in a continuity. Then Morarji Desai formed the government for another as non-Congress Prime Minister. He was Prime Minister for 2 years and he was the first Prime Minister to be removed by no confidence motion. Charan Singh was the Prime Minister for a brief period of time. It is said that Charan Singh was the Prime Minister who could not face the Parliament during his Prime Ministership. Then Indira Gandhi next became the Prime Minister from 80 to 84 when he was assassinated by his personal guards. Rajiv Gandhi also became 84, 89, sixth President of Prime Minister of India. VP Singh also came to serve the Prime Minister of India as the 7th Prime Minister and he served for a brief period. Then followed instability in the government, frequent downfall of the government. Chandrasekhar remained only for less than 1 year and P. Narasimha Rao also ruled for 5 years again. Then Atal Bihari Vajpayee came and he ruled for a very brief period. S.D. Devagowda, 11th Prime Minister of India, he ruled for less than 1 year. I.K. Gujral also less than 1 year. He was the 12th President of India, Prime Minister of India. Then Manmohan Singh, that is 2004 to 2014. So Manmohan Singh, 2014, 13th President, he continued for 2 terms and remained in office. Then 14th Prime Minister is Narendra Modi. So these are the chronological order of the Prime Minister. We have a long list of Prime Minister. India has had seen 14 Prime Ministers so far. Okay. So this is the outcome of today's class. We have discussed Prime Minister. In the next class, we shall be going to start the Council of Minister and Attorney General. So I hope to complete the class Union Executive in the next class. Okay. So continue with us. Any query regarding admission and regarding any course fees and other things, you can consult the office. Okay. You can consult the reception's office and you can get the information, adequate information regarding that. Wish you all the best for your future India year. Okay. Watch our classes and go along with us. We will definitely reach the target. Thank you very much for watching us.